her third speech to us this evening from that basic manual, that Confident Communicator manual. It is called How to Be Alive, a.k.a. Bloom Where You Plant. Please welcome DeAnne.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and our guests. There's a difference between living life, just kind of going with it, and really living an abundant life. Tonight, I'm going to make it really easy to remember how to bloom where you're planted. I think a lot of you guys were here when we had the improv night, and one thing that we learned was something about the right brain. And what the right brain does, it engages creativity. So I believe all of you guys should have an agenda, and on the back of the agenda is a space so that you can draw along with me, because we're going to be drawing a picture. You guys ready? All right, so being alive starts with our heart, which makes sense, right? When our heart's not beating, we're not alive. For us to be alive, we have to be in tune with our heart and with our ability to love. I've learned in life that love is not a feeling, but it's an action. We express love when we are kind towards others, when we're compassionate, when we're patient. But what we forget is that before we can love others, we have to love ourselves. I came across a really neat practice a couple of days ago, and it suggested that you write down the things that you like or that you love about yourself. And I did that, and it was really, really helpful. So I encourage you guys to do the same. Write down those things that you like about yourself, that you love about yourself. Look at them, study them, and make that be the story of who you are. When we love ourselves and when we love others, it creates growth. So now you can draw the little bloom. And it's also important that we are grounded and firmly rooted. Have any of you guys ever seen Mad Men on TV? Mm-hmm. Have you noticed that the senior guy who started the advertising firm, he'll walk around without shoes on? Have you noticed that? Well, there's a reason for that, of course. Whenever you take your shoes off and you walk around without shoes, then you feel more grounded. For those of you who live or work from home, it's really easy for you to do the best way to ground yourself, which is take your shoes off and go outside and walk in the grass. But for most of us, we work actually in a building, so we can't do that. When I lived in Chicago and New York, I truly, when I was feeling really stressed and really anxious, I would take my shoes off and I would walk around my office. And I know it might look crazy, but it really works. So you should try it. The next thing that is extremely important in flourishing in life is nourishment. And it's nourishment for your body, so through exercise and eating healthy. Nourishing your brain, just learning. But something that we neglect to nourish is our soul. How many of you all know how to nourish your soul? And how do you know how to feed your passions? And if you do know how, do you feed your passions? The friend of mine, Matt, that's here today, he actually prodded me to go to a Spanish conversation class a couple weeks ago. And we get together once a week during Wednesday from noon to 1 o'clock. And I was a little bit anxious before going to this conversation class because I haven't been speaking a whole lot of Spanish because most of my time is spent either in English or going to India, so Spanish doesn't really work there. So I was a little bit nervous about going to the class, but I was also anxious because I had a lot of things going on at work. So I was dreading going to this conversation class, but I went. And as I got engaged, and as I was speaking in Spanish with other people and hearing their stories, my whole demeanor changed, my whole attitude changed, and I had so much fun. So language might not be something that is up your alley, but you can garden, you can go to a museum, you can paint, you can draw, you can attend Toastmasters. Something else that is extremely important to be fully alive is to bless others. And when I think of blessings, I think of light from the sun. So how can we share the light that we have within ourselves with others? A lot of times, the easiest thing to do is just give money. But I think one of the most priceless things that we can do is spend time with others, whether it's with family, friends, or strangers. But the easiest thing that we can do is to share a smile. And finally, last but not least, this is supposed to be rain, but it's supposed to look like tears. Last but not least, what is extremely important that we go through in life to live, to really be alive, is to go through suffering. And when I talk about suffering, a lot of us step back and we have such a negative connotation when it comes to suffering. But if you look back at your life and you look at the times when you suffered, you realize that's probably when you grew the most, when you encountered the suffering. So what I recommend, instead of trying to self-medicate to avoid the pain, is really feel it, charge into it, write about it, pray about it, learn how to be okay with being by yourself, and learn why you're suffering before you try to avoid the pain. I was going through a really dark place in Chicago. I was getting divorced, and what I found was how crucial it is to get outside yourself. And so I went to a homeless shelter and ended up volunteering and listened to other people's problems. And when you listen to other people's problems, it gives you perspective. And it gives you the ability to get outside of yourself and to really be able to learn what you're going through and to be okay with the point that you're at with suffering. So, to sum it all up, now we have this very pretty picture, and so it should be very easy for you guys to remember how to be alive and how to bloom where you're planted.